Okay, so a few of you were asking about my airbrush. This is it. It's actually just off eBay. It's not one of the brand names because they are really expensive. Eventually I'd like to get one of those, but for the basics of what you're doing, one of the cheaper ones is fine. You do want to get a dual action, which is basically means this here. You press down and it releases the air, you pull it back and it releases the paint. You want the dual action because, especially with the air dry paints, because once you've got it back and the paint's coming out, you want to be able to stop the paint. So by doing that, you just keep your finger pressed down and take it forward, and that cleans out the inside of your airbrush so none of the paint dries inside, because if you get paint drying inside, you've basically ruined your airbrush and you'll need to buy a new one. With the airbrush, you also want to make sure that you get a gravity feed, which means your little paint holders on the top and the paint is coming down from gravity. You can get ones that have just suction, just gravity, or this particular one actually has both, but I've actually misplaced my suction paint holder. But that, it's just kind of like a jar upside down, so it's the paint's coming into the airbrush by suction, which is fine for a lot of things, but for the finer things that you want on the dolls, it's better to use gravity, and that way you're using all of your paint up. This doesn't look like it holds a lot of paint, but it's usually enough to do 1 to 2 coats on a newborn sized doll kit, and really refilling it is no big drama. You can get ones that are bigger, that hold more paint, but I've had no problems with this smaller one, so that's fine. This is the way I hold it. 1 finger underneath the acorn, 2 around the hose, and that gives me nice stability with it. It's a good idea to practice first before you start, so if you've got some practice limbs or something, just especially because the dual action, when you're first starting, it's a little bit awkward, but you get used to it pretty quickly. As for the compressor, that's also just off eBay. This is the box that came in, mini air compressor. I think they're also listed on eBay under nail art air compressors or tanning air compressors. The airbrush is attached to the compressor with a hose. You want to make sure all the seals are tight on your hose, or else you'll have leaks. Okay, so on your compressor, when it's on and you're not blowing air out, you want it to be at 4. When you release the air from your air gun, airbrush, you don't want to start pulling back on and releasing the paint until it's at 3. Between 2 and 3 is good, but 3 is pretty good. So you want to keep an eye on that, and then you can start releasing your paint. If you release it too soon, I've found that that's when you get a lot of the spattering on the kit, which again, that's no big deal. You just blot it off with a sponge, but it can be a pain in the butt to have to stop. This is a moisture trap, which all of the air compressors should come with one. Basically, when you're airbrushing and it's humid, you're going to get a lot of water in these. If you're living in a humid area like Queensland, you might want to get a second water trap, which you can attach to your hose, and that will just stop the airbrush spitting out the excess moisture that's accumulating in the hose, because it's taking out double the amount of water. You do want to empty out this quite frequently because you don't want it to get full. Hopefully that gives you a little bit of information. I did get mine off eBay. I imagine you could get them other places as well, but sometimes you can pick up a really good bargain on eBay, so it's worth a look. I will do another short video on how to pull it apart and clean it in the next couple of days.